Hello and welcome to Cool Coffee with Kansas Principals. By and for school administrators, this podcast is intended to promote candid discussion and insight about our great profession. My name is Rick Sola, and as Communications Director for the Kansas Principals Association, I am the host, but I am certainly not the feature. Sit back, take a sip, and enjoy. This is Cool Coffee with Kansas Principals. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Cool Coffee with Kansas Principals in what will be our last official full feature episode of the 24-25 school year. We'll relaunch again in August, but we have some guests here today, and it's appropriate to have a couple of these guests because they are friends of the show, been on here multiple times, and one of them was our very first full feature with Dr. Todd Dane, who is joined also by his assistant principal, Mr. Mark Mahoney. Welcome, Todd and Mark.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
And then also on the other side, we have also frequent guest on the show, Mrs. Kelly Whitaker, joined by her assistant principal, Dr. Johnny Lewis of Ottawa, Kansas. I should have mentioned Shawnee Mission South. I think we know that, but for Todd Dane and Mark Mahoney, but then Kelly and Johnny from Ottawa High School. Guys, thanks for joining.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us on this gloomy Tuesday morning.
Well, the last time I recorded was with Britton Hart, and the power literally was going out on us, and it was much worse. So this isn't quite as bad, but we'll take it. So summer is in progress. We all just connected last week, just less than a week ago. We were at USA Kansas, which is what really this episode is really featuring. Is just the USA Kansas Conference, which brought a lot of really good material and content. I know there were some presentations that we were even a part of, but want to hear a little bit and share out, kind of bragging on the conference, but debriefing the conference a little bit. And so we'll just jump right into it and kind of get into some of the more meaningful sessions. And we've got 5 of us here talking, so it can kind of just go free flowing. But I'll just open it straight up with, when you think back to USA Kansas 2025, the 54th annual conference, what was the number one takeaway for you? And maybe we'll start on the Shawnee Mission South side, either Mark or Todd, as you left USA Kansas.
Well, I'll tell you what, the thing for me every time, I think it's the same. And it doesn't mean that this year didn't shine, but every year for me, it's just the ability to network, to connect, and learn from colleagues across the state and get great ideas. There's some really exciting sessions that we attended, but I think just getting ideas from others and sharing those ideas has been the most impactful for me.
And as a first-time guest there, one thing that I took away was it was so well organized. It was very detailed. With the ability to go to a session, then be able to unwind with a group of people and talk to them about what's going on in their buildings and share different ideas was super impactful for me and something I can take into this summer and into next school year.
Kelly, Johnny, as you come back to Ottawa, and I know you're meeting Kelly, we were talking kind of before we hit record here that you're a 12-month contract, you're working all summer. A lot of those ideas that you get from conferences like this kind of percolate, and then they develop, and then they come to fruition in August. What was something that you walked out of the conference with?
I walked out, so there was a student leadership groups, was shared by Jerry Johnson. He's the high school principal at Holcomb High School out there in western Kansas, and I really enjoyed listening to him and Joe Coles talk about how Jerry has taken student leadership groups with his juniors and seniors and really just transformed the culture within his building and, more importantly, built the capacity through his students to be leaders. He made a comment that we always talk about and kind of grumble about how our kids don't know how to be leaders, but we don't teach them how to. And I probably am the queen of saying that around my building. So I was really excited to listen to him share a little bit about his journey and his story. And I've already emailed him and looking forward to connect with him and pick his brain a little bit about what that really looks like and how it might transition to a building that's a I'm about 3 times the size as he is. So just kind of curious on what that could look like for us.
I think for me, I left there feeling really hopeful about the state of education in Kansas and just some of the positive things that are happening there. That last session where we just kind of heard lots of good news about education in Kansas was good for me to hear and see and made me grateful. One of the sessions that I loved, I went to a session on our behaviors and our kind of emotional regulation impacts student regulation, and so it was talking about like how to help teachers get emotionally regulated when they're dealing with students who are dysregulated. And so like 2 minutes into that session, I was texting one of our teachers who's really passionate about that same kind of thing, and we're ordering books and planning professional development around ways we can help our teachers kind of center themselves when students become dysregulated or tap out and find some help, and just kind of identifying some triggers and some skills that they need to help regulate themselves when they're in those moments. So that was just kind of some good nuts and bolts things that I took with me.
Kelly, you had mentioned seeing Jerry Johnson from Holcomb High School. And I was in that session. I didn't realize you were in there, but exactly what you said is what I wrote down to come back to is how often we have leadership groups in our eighth grade, at every grade, but our eighth grade, we have some leaders. We want to have them be influential students. And I really asked myself, how do we teach them to be a leader? Other than say, you're a leader and here's some activities we're going to have you facilitate, how do we actually instruct them on what leadership means, how to be a leader at a middle school? And that really stuck out to me, and I really appreciated that session from Jerry and Joe. Johnny, you just mentioned you were connecting with your teachers. I guess a question for all of you. Are you intentional about, or do you, or just kind of as you go to these conferences, do you reach out to your teachers and kind of make it very publicly known what you got out of these conferences? Is that something that you try to do when you go away to these conferences?
I think when it's applicable, absolutely. Anytime that we hear a good idea or something we could bring back to whether it's our building leadership team, maybe a small group of teachers that could lead some future professional development, we always are processing and trying to do that when we feel like it's right. Not that you're going to try to emulate somebody else and you want to be just like they are, but if someone's got a great idea and we know that that's a gap or a point of struggle in our building, then how can we take that information and build some capacity through our team to do some great things for our students as well, and learn from their expertise in that area.
Yeah, I would echo that, and that when we go to the conference and bring back an idea, or even just sometimes you just bring back a question, right? And I oftentimes go back to my building leadership team with a question that I have from a conference, and how can we apply this here at Shawnee Mission South, or how can we make this relevant for kids? And I think one of the most prevalent pieces that we're focused on is making school relevant for teenagers in 2026, right? We have to continually evolve and make school relevant for young people. And the traditional high school, the traditional college-bound path and everything else that we all think about school is rapidly changing and evolving, and we have to continue to evolve and meet the needs of our learners. And so those are the questions that I bring back to our building leadership team, oftentimes with different ideas and solutions from other principals, and then using that to fit what we need here.
It's been brought up already a couple times, just the conversation that you have with other principals. We all connected in this room last week at Wichita, not during sessions, but during in between times or after times, and there's so much valuable PD, PLC, principal PLC that occurs kind of informally at these conferences. That's so great. I'm going to throw out, a subject from the conference last week, and we'll just do reactions here. Let's talk keynotes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. There were a few. We'll just start it off where the conference started. how would we, we're debriefing the conference. Let's debrief the keynotes. Who wants to launch into that one?
Yeah, so I was so excited to have Coach with us and share that story
That was a great story.
of his team and the young man that made all those shots. And I think it's not a new story to me, but I think it's good to remind ourselves why we do this and what we're all about. And if the answer to our why isn't kids, then we're in the wrong business. And so I always get excited and emotional whenever we bring it back to students with special needs, and that hits home with my family and what we live with. And so it's always powerful to me that it comes back to our why and why we get excited and fired up about this thing that we do in schools.
And I'll take a note from Johnny. I called a couple coaches Friday morning, getting ready for this week and camps and summer weights, and just try to get the enthusiasm I took from kids and how powerful they are and what we mean to kids, and how far it goes just by loving kids and telling them how much we appreciate them. And kind of just puts a little fire in your belly. And I wanted to share that message with some of our new teachers and some of our veteran teachers that are getting ready to interact with kids in the school, but not really a school setting this summer, and want to get them kind of excited about the summer and next year.
And Rick, I always enjoy listening to Anthony McDaniel and Jessica Bernard, the two lawyers that presented at the end. I mean, they weren't really a keynote, but they were a main breakout session for everybody. And I always enjoy going to their sessions because they talk about really tough and scary topics, and they do it in a manner of which, one, we can all understand. Two, they always make it very applicable to our everyday lives as educators and administrators. And they just do it in a lighthearted but serious manner. So I really enjoyed kind of having that breakout at the end where they got to talk to everybody at the conference that last morning.
Yeah, the team that I was with, we had several from our district, and there were some other lawyer sessions, specifically with AI and how it's being used and how it can be used from a parent to type up a message, questioning, challenging perhaps some of the things, decisions that are made and so forth, and you can ask AI to kind of beef it up and make it sound like it's written from a lawyer, and how AI is getting used in that way, and just kind of that frontier of AI. But certainly anytime we hear from attorneys and people who are dealing with this, it's certainly applicable. You said scary. It can be, when we think about that. I'll bring up, the first keynote, the drummer, Mr. Schulman. I'm going to bring it up because two reasons. One, I got to be featured during that speech because I was selected and I received a drumstick at the end of it, and there were different things presented, but there was something in particular that stuck out, and I wrote it down. And just kind of in a nutshell, Mr. Schulman is a career drummer and has worked with really the biggest names in the music industry all throughout his career. He showed a clip from Pink, and I'm not sure if you remember. He actually showed several, but there was one where she gives him credit for the work he does, but for being the most positive person in the room all the time. And he explained that it dawned on him at that moment that he wasn't asked to be on all these different groups, whether it was Billy Idol or Pink or Cher or whoever, because he was the best drummer. That it hit him that it was what he brought to the table as a person and beyond that. And I just thought that was really a really good kind of aha for him, I'm sure, but just some insight on the things that we bring to the table. Kind of the old adage, like, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but how we present and carry ourselves is really important. And so I really did appreciate that message that was shared in that first keynote. And then kind of, Todd, to your point, the coach that came in, I've heard that story before, I've seen the video before, but oh my gosh, you talk about emotional, and I actually got a book from him afterwards, and he just, I mean, there was a long line, but he just sat and kind of talked, and just a very genuine guy. So some really, really strong keynotes and presenters that were brought into USA Kansas for sure. Any other sessions? I just want to kind of, be able to share out as part of, that's something we do here in the building I'm at, is we sit down and talk about, okay, you went to this, okay, talk about it, like share out. Are there any other sessions that you attended that kind of for the good, not just for those in this room, but those who might be listening to this podcast, that's worth sharing out?
Yeah, for what it's worth, I want to give a shout out to Zach Murray and his team at Chanute High School. I thought they did a really nice job of sharing some of the changes that they put in place there, really to be very intentional about their purpose in navigating student leadership and student behaviors. And specifically, I love the idea of what they've done with their freshman introduction class, their freshman orientation course that they created. For all freshmen, that's required for them as an elective, and that's one of those things that you talk to them afterwards and say, hey, how did you do this, and who can teach this, and where's the curriculum from, and you just want to steal ideas. And I've stolen a lot of ideas from other people. I steal from Kelly all the time, but that's one of those things that I thought was really a big takeaway for me and what they've done at Chanute, and hopefully we can find a way to make that work here in Shawnee Mission.
Awesome.
I went to one by this guy named Todd Danes that was pretty good. It was on delegation. And what I appreciated about that, we got to reflect on it afterward. And one of the things I appreciate about Kelly is that she's really reflective. And so after we were, part of that session, she was able to kind of be vulnerable and ask some questions about how she delegates, and like asking me questions about how I perceive the way she delegates, and just being reflective about it. So I think that was good for us to just think about how we work with our team and work with people in the building. So helpful stuff.
So we got the presenter himself right here, Dr. Dane. In a nutshell, can you share a little bit about that delegation that you talked about in your session?
Yeah, a little bit. We focused on how to build capacity in your team, and specifically the delegation triangle. And it's actually a piece from Modelnetics, and how to rotate that delegation triangle where you can release some of that control. And a lot of times, I think building principals struggle with letting go of control, and most building principals got to that position by outworking, out hustling, out studying their peers. And as a building principal, that model doesn't necessarily work, because you can burn out very, very quickly by trying to do it all. And you really have to be willing to trust your team, to trust your administrative team, your office team, your teachers, to build some of that leadership capacity in them to make sure that you maximize your opportunities there in the building. So it's just really about how you can leverage that delegation model and let go of a lot of the responsibilities, and share that leadership capacity, and in the end, empower your whole team.
Yeah, I'm curious, what would you say, Dr. Dane, as far as, sometimes I see that, you mentioned that burnout, and, because it's hard to delegate, and sometimes it gets challenging to delegate when you feel like you've been burned by delegating before.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I always feel like sometimes micromanaging is bred from inept or someone not following through. It's like, I'm just going to do it. How do you recover from that, or what would be your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I take it all kind of with a grain of salt. And when I have conversations with principals, sometimes I'll say, well, why don't you delegate that to your athletic director, or why don't you give that to an associate principal to do? And sometimes their response is, well, I would, but they'll screw it up. And I said, well, sometimes the best thing to do is to let them screw it up and then use that as a learning opportunity to help teach them through the process. And anytime we navigate one of those scenarios here, I always take the blame, right? So I shoulder the blame for any of those mistakes or errors or missteps, and understand that it's my responsibility. And then ultimately, it is my responsibility because I didn't do my job in making sure that I detailed everything in the delegation process. I didn't give them enough information on the front end. I didn't do enough check-ins. I didn't follow through with the reflection and the details at the end. So I think there's a process to effectively delegate, and I've been on the end where I've delegated and I didn't give enough background and I didn't give enough structure, and then I had to correct my approach as the delegator to make sure that those team members know exactly what the expectation is on the back end and why we have to do things a certain way or what the parameters are. So I do think as principals sometimes we're shy about delegating because we have been burned. And the one thing that I've learned, I've been the principal here for 10 years now, and in that 10 years I've had 14 different associate principals, and I've gotten better at delegating. I've gotten better at training them. But it's a process where I also know when I have new ones come in, I've got to allow them to make mistakes because that's when they learn too. And I got to keep giving them opportunities to grow in the process. So that's one of my objectives as a principal, is to help grow my team, to get them where they want to be.
Right. No, that's really great, and thanks for going into that a little further, and I think that's something we all can relate to, certainly. Question for Mark and Johnny. What is it like working with the principals of the year?
It's great. I've known Todd for 20 years. I come from a place where I know exactly what he wants and what he needs and his work ethic. So it actually makes my job very, very easy. He has an expectation. I know that if it's not met, he'll tell me, and that's okay because that's how we grow and get better. And I'm constantly growing, and that's what was so great about the conference, was to talk to other people that live in your world, to kind of bounce ideas off of them, see how they learn from their mistakes, and how to help me grow as an assistant principal and AD. But it's an honor to work with Todd and our team, and there's never a dull moment at school, and it's not work to me. I enjoy it. I'd like to go back to the conference because we're under construction right now, and it's real now, and we're back to work. But it's a pleasure.
Awesome.
I kind of ditto what Mark said. I really appreciate that the expectations are very clear. The bar is high, and if you don't meet it, there's going to be a direct conversation about it. Not a mean one, but a helpful, reflective one. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate receiving feedback if I'm not doing well, and also hearing when I'm doing well, and I get both of those things, and I really appreciate that. I think one of the gifts that Kelly has that that helps me want to come in to work with her every day. She does a great job of bringing our focus back to what is best for students in this moment, and kind of putting aside, listening to all the different sides of things, but then to kind of pull us together and say what's best for kids in this moment. And that's my own why every day, and so it makes me want to get up and come here every day, and it's inspiring. And I'll also just want to mention that I have a couple times when we were recruiting teachers this spring and we knew they were a little close on which school they were going to go to. Kelly has never mentioned it, but I have said, hey, just so you know, you got a job offer from the Kansas Principal of the Year. So, anything we can do to try and get them, I'll do it. So, but I do think it's reflective of, this is a place where we take what we do seriously, and good things are happening here. So it is a selling point when we're talking to prospective new staff. So I'll try to use that as well.
Well, those are both really nice answers for both of you. I was like, you put that out there, and we're streaming. Like, who knows what they're going to say? Like, I mean, I didn't know if we'd be 10 minutes in and like, and another thing, No, obviously two top-notch principals, and that I was admiring the rings that come with it at the conference, and so I wanted to bring that up. But obviously, two top-notch principals. But also, having talked with Kelly and Todd, I know they speak often and very highly of their team, which is both of you. And Mark, we had a chance to talk quite a bit at the conference. It was good to catch up with you. We both shared a district in our past, and but haven't really chatted very much. And that's really the value. I think some of the biggest value of these conferences is just that networking and talking. Mark, you mentioned wanting to go back to the conference, and because of the construction, kind of made my mind go to November. We have the KPA conference, which is a mini version of this, and it's extremely powerful as well. And so just an early plug for that coming up. But the networking is just an incredible piece, and a lot to be brought back to our buildings. And I think all of our buildings are going to be better for those who attended this conference. So a very critical piece, I think, in our world is really kind of at that time where we're at right now, which is summer. The pace is a little different. We're about to break for summer, if you will. At the same time, personally, I have found summer sometimes doesn't lend itself to that mental break, because you're gearing up so rapidly and quickly for the upcoming year. But it is important to do so. So from each of you, just quickly, what is it that you're going to do to really kind of be intentional about allowing yourself time to unplug, recharge, because we hear that often, but I don't know how often we allow ourselves to do that. But what's something that you're going to be doing this summer just to kind of let yourself get away?
For me, as a high school administrator, our evenings are very busy. And so we're constantly go during the 9 months of the school year. And so my favorite thing to do just in the summer is that when I leave work, I can actually leave work. And very rarely in the summer must I finish a task before tomorrow morning in order to walk in and feel good about where I am. So I tend to use my evenings more just to be with my family, to work out, to just kind of relax and unwind. One fun thing I am doing this summer, I bought my mother tickets to see Caitlin Clark play in Indianapolis. And so
Wow.
I'm going to be, hopefully she gets her little hamstring healed so I can go and watch her play in Indianapolis with my mom. But that's just kind of what I try to do, is connect with my family and do those things that we just don't have time for during the school year, especially as a secondary administrator, because we are at work all the time and at activities in the evenings and on the weekends. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it's important to take advantage of that down time and that slower pace in the summer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. I have he'll be 6 actually next week. I have a almost 6-year-old and then a 13-year-old daughter. And so, they miss me on those nights when I'm doing ball games and things. So just a lot of extra time with my kids, time at the pool. My daughter is a huge fan of the band My Chemical Romance. So in August, they're doing a reunion tour. It's the first time they've toured in a long time. So in August, Kelly's actually letting me miss one of those first days in August when teachers are back so that I can do this. We're flying to New York to watch My Chemical Romance at Citi Field. And my daughter is so excited that she and I get to do that together. So she's like super pumped. She's like talks about it every day. And we've been planning it since, that was her Christmas gift. So we've been planning it.
That's awesome. And that's kind of going back. I mean, they're a little bit of a throwback band at this point.
Yeah, she's old school.
There we go.
She's a cool kid. She's cooler than her dad at this point.
That's awesome. We'll enjoy that. What a special time with her. So, how about Shawnee Mission South over there?
I'm super excited. Both my kids walked down the hill and are college graduates about 3 weeks ago. It's not going to be relaxing because they're moving back home in the last 4 or 5 years, but we're super excited to have them home. And I'm a lot like Kelly. At 4 o'clock, for the most part, I don't take phone calls and don't have games to rush to, so I get to be back home with the dogs and my family, and looking forward to just pool and relax and hopefully just try to unwind. But it never shuts off, but it's a little bit slower now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say the same. I leave work and I go home to my real boss, the Dr. Dane, and I get orders from her. And but our kids are grown now, so it's actually a time where we can spend a little more time together as a couple. And just unwind a little bit. I am going to spend a week in Seattle, so super excited about that with NASSP and Illuminate. So we're going to go to Seattle and celebrate Kelly Whitaker and the POIs of 2025, and then I'm going to be presenting at the United Conference there after that piece. And so I'm excited to present again at the national level. And I went to Seattle last fall and spent some time with the superintendent there from Tacoma, and he said that it basically rains every day in Seattle, August through May, but June and July is nice. So I'm looking forward to seeing Seattle in July.
That's awesome. And that kind of, Kelly, we brought up the Principal of the Year, but kind of in a nutshell, the next steps for you with that. You're headed to Seattle. What does that look like?
Yeah, we get to go to Seattle. I don't really know what it fully looks like because I've not experienced it before. Todd has been able to, but I get to go to Seattle to connect and network with other principals of the year from other states. I've already been on some podcasts and been able to do a lot of really cool networking with them, so I've kind of gotten to meet some of them ahead of the experience, and there'll be some learning. There's a really cool gala, fancy dinner that we get to go to, and you get honored. They will select the National Principal of the Year at that banquet, and then unfortunately, don't get to stay for the full conference because I'm going home to watch Caitlin Clark play. So going back to Indiana for that, and then in November 5th and 6th at our conference, we'll get recognized and honored one more time. But I have told Kara Letty this multiple times. I think every principal should have the luxury of being a Principal of the Year at some point in time. You can take full advantage of it or not. The networking opportunities that have been afforded to me from the moment that I was named the 2025 Kansas Principal of the Year to right now have been honestly humbling. And I'm getting to meet and learn from some of the best administrators across the country, and just very grateful for that process. I am a super reflective human, and so my team might get annoyed by all these great principals and leaders that I'm meeting, and just trying to get ideas from them about how we can continue to make Ottawa High School a better place for kids.
That's great. Well, and what you get from them, bring it back to us, and we'll just keep paying it forward, passing it forward. And so to all four of you, thanks for joining today. I know it's summer, so it can be a slower pace, but there's no shortage of things to do, and to take some time out of your day to jump on here with me. I do appreciate that. And I look forward to catching you all here again soon, wherever that may be across the summer, whether it's the KPA conference in November, but hopefully sooner than that. Any other final thoughts before we go?
Just hope to see all the listeners at the KPA conference in Wichita, November 5th and 6th. It's a great opportunity. It's a networking. That is really where I feel like my journey as an administrator in Kansas took off. I went by myself. I didn't know anybody. Got connected, met some people, got involved in the KPA board of directors, and here we are today. And so cannot encourage that moment for other administrators more. Just need to be there on November 5th and 6th.
Same. I had the same experience. The first time I went, I didn't know anybody. And then I ran into Kelly, and look out.
Well, 100%, because I still feel fairly new, but same deal. And I've said it on here before, but just joining, obviously doing some of this now, but it's all the connections that we've made. And I have had texts with both Todd and Kelly on a candidate, either coming to me or going to them or whatever. So that's just one example, but then the things that we learn from each other are just priceless, and it just helps. And having that network, it's comforting too, because there's some challenging moments, and we know that. And anyway, the four of you.
Well, Rick, and I think great friendships come from it. And in our line of work, it's lonely sometimes. We can't always have a lot of friends within our buildings. Just because of the nature of the work we do. And so just being able to go a couple times a year and reach out to people and stay connected, whether that's on social media or via text message or the occasional phone call, like to me that fills my bucket, because it gets lonely sometimes when you're an administrator because you just don't have a confidant to be able to problem solve. And so the networking, the friendships, the learning, the reflective moments, I just can't encourage people to join Kansas Principals Association more.
Well, guys, thank you once again. I appreciate you and all that you do. Look forward to connecting here sometime soon and hearing about how great your summer was. Otherwise, have a good summer, and we'll see you around.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Check the notes section for more information on this episode and to learn more about the KPA and its mission to develop and support all principals through optimized learning, collaborative leadership, networking, and service. Be sure to check back in for our next episode and spread the word about cool coffee with Kansas principals. Catch you next time.